Good morning, everyone. This is your host, Leilani Cawthon from the Learning Council. I'm the CEO and publisher of our news media and research organization, and also a proud EduJedi Leadership Society member. So we're going to get started with our program today. Let me just say who the sponsors are today. These are all your sponsors for this particular event. We chose them basically because they're doing things right now to help with hybrid learning and sort of move the ball forward on activating student motivation in remote, because most school districts in the country are experiencing some level of remote, hybrid, everybody's not on campus, or they're on campus in rotation, or small groups are on campus. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But we want to start first with Dr. Eric Hibbs, who's the superintendent of Marlboro Township Board of Education, and actually have him talk about kind of what's happening for them and go back and forth on a few of the questions. We might fit in this next hour a little bit of the best practices hybrid talk that I was going to do early or later, so that we can conserve some time. So Eric, I see you're on, your mic is live.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you, which is awesome.
Perfect. I was panicking. All right, good.
Yeah, so it's good to have you. Tell me about Marlboro. I'm not familiar even where that is.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Marlboro is about a 5,000 student K-8 in Monmouth County, New Jersey. We're not too far from New York City, a little bit away, about a 40-minute drive about. We have, I think, a very robust and great set of offerings for digital tools and what we do for technology. We've made this super, super important over the last, probably 8 years since I've been there. And we really, I think, have taken great strides, and even throughout the course of all of this COVID navigation that we've all had to do, we've tried to become even better, day after day and month after month, to make sure that we're doing everything to put the power of technology into the hands of our staff and our children and our community. Did I lose you?
Awesome. So you've been there for 8 years, and then what happened when you went into quarantine?
So it was interesting. So we literally have built our systems. We use very strong systems processes for digital tools and for technology. So we're a 1-to-1 district. 1 through 8 has Chromebooks, and kindergarten is 1-to-1 with iPads. So when we went into quarantine, which no one really saw coming and thought that it would last for the entire year, we were using Google Classroom for most of our grade levels. And we found out very quickly that we actually were not using it for essentially pre-K through 2. So we realized we had a hole there that we had to fix, and we put that into the fix list immediately. But we also, we are very proud in our use of digital tools. So we have Achieve 3000 and ST Math and Math IXL and Study Island. And throughout all of that, we actually maintained the same level of usage and growth in all of our online programs, to the point where Achieve 3000 actually focused upon us for a white paper, because we kept the same level of growth. We were almost first in the nation. So we've just embedded digital tools so deeply into our instruction and our instructional practices that we really kind of we kept going. And we have good, strong processes built for professional development throughout the entire system, which would be, we have turnkey trainers at every building. We have PD built in. And that meant that when we had to roll out Zoom to, 700 staff members, we did it with a process, and we did it well, so that we all had the same basic level of expectation. So the reality is that we had to make very small tweaks to good things from last year to this year. We actually made the move to implement Canvas as opposed to Google Classroom, which we're doing slowly with purpose. But as far as the big ticket items that we use and have, we really just had to just fine tune because of just how we deploy.
Okay, so what you're telling me is you've got a lot of tools, some advanced adaptive digital courseware, right, which is distributing the knowledge, putting kids through modules, those kinds of things. And then you have the discrete digital object land of Canvas, migration from Google. So you've got both operations. So talk to me a little bit about what the teachers are doing on a daily basis, because, you know, the adaptive digital curriculum sort of takes a load off in terms of time, allows for more asynchronous.
Sure.
You can do some of that. You can do some of that in Canvas because you can give people assignments, and then when you get together, it's just sort of like it's a briefing, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can.
So the transmutation basically of being on campus versus a lot of remote, you can't have people on Zoom meetings all day every day, right? So talk to me about the mix that you're seeing happen now. Are they still trying to do a lot of live conferencing, or have they, you know, sort of limited that?
No, we actually are, and that was one of the things that we did initially, is that we surveyed our community to figure out what were their priorities, and overwhelmingly they wanted kids to be on live lessons. So what we did with that is that we then worked with our tech department to set up a system where, like most places in New Jersey, I'll say most, we're on the AABB philosophy. So today being a Wednesday, everyone right now is actually online learning through Zoom. I was actually just informed that Zoom did an upgrade, so it actually threw a kink into a lot of our links, but I think that's just kind of the usual bump in the road that you're going to have to get over for day 2. So the reality is, if you're an AA kid, you're in Monday, Tuesday, and if you're a BB kid, you're in Thursday, Friday. But we set our systems where the BB kids are remoting in for the AA lessons, and the AA kids are remoting in for the BB lessons. So we actually are trying to be as synchronous as possible on a 4-hour day, and we're on a half day. And when the kids go home, it'll be a mix of an extra hour synchronous in the afternoon with asynchronous assignments. And that's where Canvas will come in on assigning learning modules and all of our online tools as well. We typically don't assign our digital tools. We allow our teachers to choose, and they do a fabulous job of that. This year, we're actually setting parameters for children on all of our tools on a weekly basis, because they really are only in school for roughly 5 hours a day. So we figured there's time for them to still do Achieve activities at home and to be on ST Math and Math IXL and Study Island. So we are trying to blend both, but we actually do have kids on live lessons for the day for all the core subjects. Off-core is a mix of synchronous and asynchronous, whatever makes sense. So PE activities will most likely be asynchronous, whereas if an art teacher has a great lesson that can happen at home, that could be synchronous. We left that option available to them.
Okay, so talk to me about your model then, because you're saying some of the kids, you know, you're on campus for a certain number of hours a day.
Yeah.
What does this look like? Is there sort of an A/B model? Is there?
Yeah. So it's an AA/BB model. So basically, what really happens is that we'll use 30% because I think it's like 34. So basically, it's about 34% of the kids voted to stay home. So New Jersey, we had to give parents the choice, which we did, and about 34% are all remote. And then we took the remaining amounts and broke those children into either Monday, Tuesday days or Thursday, Friday days. So, kids right now, you have anywhere from 6 to 7 to 8 to 9-ish kids in a classroom on average.
Okay. So they're socially distanced, and they're everybody's wearing masks and all that other stuff. How's that working for younger kids?
So yesterday was our first day. So to be honest with you, it's interesting. The feedback that we got just on day one, and it's so fresh, is that, I received, thank you so much, this is wonderful. The arrival, I know it has nothing to do with technology. The arrival was actually flawless with our temperature checks. We had some issues on Zoom yesterday in the waiting rooms. We're working out little bumps in the road where if a kid has a hard time getting in, they're emailing the teacher, but the teacher's trying to teach. So those little types of things, and I'll liken it to Harry Wong, where Harry Wong talks about the difference between rules and procedures. We are working out the procedures, just literally into day one or after day one, because it's hard. I mean, this is so different from anything we've ever done that, for anyone to think there's not going to be bumps in the road, it's just not realistic. So, we're trying to make it all work, and we really feel as if that each day we're gonna have the plan, do, check, act philosophy and aim to get better each and every day at our craft and what we have to do. And if that means that we realize that we need a new microphone, then we're going to get new microphones. And that's just how we have to approach it. We have to just try to make it work the best we can.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for doing that, Eric, because there are some districts that just sort of threw in the towel early on. They were way behind already. They didn't have any devices, they didn't have any software, the teachers weren't ready. They did a big sort of meltdown. But now almost all of the country got machines in the last several months. I know one of the hardware vendors moved 18 million machines into this market in under 3 months. So wow. we know everybody's doing that. You're way ahead though. So that makes a big difference. And by the way, I've been up by Monmouth. We ran a New Jersey statewide event there several years ago in partnership with your State Department of Ed. And it was interesting. There's an interesting culture in the schools up there. Really, it's just sort of enthusiastic. I loved everyone I met. They were awesome. But now you are dealing with sort of a patchwork quilt amongst districts. Some of them are doing this very differently. Are you in communication with some of the other superintendents?
Of course. Yeah, we've been doing weekly Zooms since March. I actually I'm missing today to talk to you guys. But yeah, all the time are we talking. And you're right. People are all over the board on what they're doing and their approaches. You are totally right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also interesting what happened dynamically in the United States when quarantines happened. If people were doing it sort of not so well, a lot of parents went shopping, right? In terms of what could we do alternatively. Yeah. The number of apps just skyrocketed. I mean, as Learning Council research, we sort of track what's going on in the consumer markets. And the consumer markets just took off. I mean, billions of dollars were spent.
Oh, I'm sure. And I think that we do a great job of offering those programs to our families for free. I mean, we invest over a $500,000 a year into our online programs. Typically, every year we replace one grade level of Chromebooks. This year we replaced the grade level and the staff Chromebooks. So, I mean, we have everything from Achieve 3000 to Raz Kids to Reading Eggs to Smarty Ants to Math IXL to Study Island. We offer so many things, and our teachers use them. I mean, and as a superintendent, I watch it. I create an online dashboard through my supervisor, and I look at usage and performance. And I can tell you that last year we used 5,200 hours at Study Island ELA, and I can tell you that I had 4,326,000 IXL questions that were attempted. So I've watched all this to make sure that our usage and performance is used well, because the reality is, I'm 45 years old and I started teaching 23 years ago, and I didn't have any online programs. And if I wanted to target children, I had to figure it all out on my own. And now we have all these resources that are at our fingertips that can differentiate for specific levels of kids. It really is remarkable.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's definitely a transformation, and I'm sure you're running into all kinds of things along the way, probably more stories than you could possibly tell in this half hour. We do have a question for you from Laura Hills. Laura, I'm finding you so you can ask your question. I have to unmute you. There you are. Unmuting you. You're going to have to unmute yourself so that you can speak. You're self-muted, Laura.
Okay, I got it.
There you go.
I can hear you. Okay, so I have lousy headphones, so I apologize if you can or cannot hear me.
We got you, just fine.
Okay, thank you. So Dr. Hibbs, I'm in an urban district in Jersey, and thank you for sharing your story. And certainly I'm a data analyst, so certainly I'm aware of all of these living in the moment, step by step. I guess I'm curious as to, you talked about parents and students. I'm worried about curious about supports to teachers. You mentioned they have to both, figure out the tech issue as well as teach, and that's a lot. And I'm just wondering what support, and if you got the teachers on your side, or if unions are getting in the way. And I'm aware of all things going on in our district. I'm just curious. Sure. Do you do check-ins with your staff? And I mean at all level. I don't know how big Marlboro is. I mean, I'm aware of your district, but
yeah. No, we're about 5,000 kids, 8 buildings. So yesterday was literally our first day, and
right.
there was nobody that really thought that this wasn't going to be hard, because we all know that this is going to be really hard. And teaching kids in front of you and also on Zoom, we know is a challenge. So what did we learn yesterday? We learned yesterday that you can't go any more than 5 feet away from the Chromebook right now and have kids hear you. So we know that.
Interesting.
Right? But we knew that. We knew there was going to have to be we call it the zone of proximal development for teacher standing, right?
Okay, very funny.
What did I do? I mean, I ordered the power cart for staff. I ordered them an extra monitor that will plug into their Chromebook, so they can have 2 monitors and their Promethean board within their graph. And then I also ordered them a plug and play tablet where they can write on. Also, we ordered Cami for them, so for our staff and also for our parents, they can have the write-on PDF. 3 days of upfront PD where we talked about this and gave them time to really talk about what this would be. And then I think the best thing that I kind of did here was, in looking at our staff, I tried to really honor them. So kids come for a half day, and I'm actually giving my staff more prep than I need to. And I'm allowing them to have essentially an hour and a half after kids leave, where they can either stay or they can go home and pick up their kids and get a PBJ together. And then they have to do an hour at the end of the day.
Wow.
So I really tried to be as humanistic as possible here, because I understand the world that we're living in for everybody. I have 3 kids myself. So the one thing that I think is just going to get better day by day is going to be the actual instruction, and then having kids in front of you and then still teaching. And I walked around to 4 of my 8 buildings yesterday, and I saw it happening, and I saw teachers at their desks rocking it and rolling. And we're going to support them. We're going to listen to feedback. If we need to turn left, we turn left. Turn right, we turn right. And we realized going in that this is going to be the one piece that was difficult. And I think, for the first 2 weeks, we did not start supplemental instruction. So the kids just leave after a half day, and that gives us time with our staff for the first 2 weeks to work out any kinks. And then we're going to be doing, PD for that hour on, hey, this is the, best practices for using the microphone or whatever that would be. Eventually that time will turn into training for Canvas, because we actually are going to transition to Canvas as well. But I pulled back on that because unfortunately in COVID, Canvas couldn't turn us on until the very end of August. And I just realized
that's too quick, yeah.
Yeah, it just wasn't enough. But, I go back to our staff are just incredible in how they work, they persevere, and they use our programs. And, programs like ST Math, which is honestly I think the best program, or one of the best programs out there for math conceptual learning, that is so deeply embedded into our district. And we've already done that. So I didn't have to worry about that piece. And, for years, I've gone around and talked about the concept of digital tools and embedding as a systems process. Districts that haven't done that don't have visions and flowcharts and action plans and vision statements and goal statements for their online programs and leave them to chance, they scrambled in this world. And I didn't have to, because we
Wow,
really
you're blessed. Yeah.
embedded them all in. But I had support from my staff. To answer your question, I had support from my union president, who's fabulous. They wanted to be with kids. They wanted to be teaching kids. And we realized that teaching them 2 out of 5 days just wasn't going to do anybody any good with posting content for the other 3.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I wish you tremendous success. It sounds like you started off really well, and it'll continue giving all the supports you have in place, it sounds like. So thank you.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you.
Okay, great. So, Dr. Hibbs.
I will demute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Laura. All right, so a couple more questions. We have a few more minutes, and then we're going to launch off into sort of an altered schedule for the day for New York today. I'm going to share what's going on with hybrid logistics nationally, Dr. Hibbs, and sort of what we see as the best practices. Really what's happening right now is that a lot of schools stood up like they did the bifurcation. They're like, here's the physical for the few first responder families, everybody else has to be remote, and then there's this online alternative. And then they created teaching teams, and some people were online, some were not. But the best practices really have to do a lot with what you're doing right now, which is a melding to sort of prioritize humans and the human engagement, because especially during this moment with COVID-19 still roaming in the landscape, human interaction is more important than ever before. But if you have to do it virtually, you better nail it. So talk to me a little bit about sort of what you guys went through to choose your model and kind of what you would be doing.
Sure. So I agree with you that the human interaction is actually the most important piece, which is why it was so important to get kids back into schools. So we started these discussions, and we take them very seriously. We actually started them in March, and I realized right away that my pre-K through 2 kids weren't even on Google Classroom, and it wasn't anywhere near what I wanted. Now, it worked just fine if we were in a normal instructional model. We didn't need it. So we realized we had a gaping hole there. We also realized that we wanted something a little deeper. One of the concerns that I would sometimes have about Google Classroom is that it's very hard for parents to manage it. And to understand what kids had or assignments. So we actually then took the steps to immediately begin researching a different type of platform. And we did, and we actually, as a committee, we had all kinds of committees. But the one that was relevant here was our technology committee, and we actually kicked tires on Canvas and all really loved it. As far as the model goes, we engaged in long, hard discussions with my administrative team initially as the filter, and there's 27 of us about, give or take. There's actually probably a little less with non-instructional administrators, but we really talked about what was really important to us. We believe in the work of Cynic and starting with why, and our why was we wanted to make sure that we were actually giving our kids the best exposure to content and the most comprehensive exposure. And we knew that last year that that we had Zooms that were optional. We knew that didn't work. It just doesn't work. And while we know that it's not going to be a perfect system, because there's nothing perfect about teaching a kindergartner how to read over a Zoom at all. Live lessons, we believed were essential to be a part of the equation, in addition to the asynchronous part. So as a team, we really just fleshed this through, and then we had several test runs to see if we could actually make it work. We ordered new stack Chromebooks, which unfortunately took a very long time and actually are coming in literally today. They're being disseminated today on the Wednesday home day. And then we ordered all the other tech to help them as well, like the write-on tablets so they could write right on the Chromebook, the cart, they could have a central location. So we really just worked together to develop what we wanted that model to be, because I really just felt that the posting of content, while it could be incredible, also opened possibilities for it not to be incredible. That's why we really got to the spot where we were live 5 days a week, willing to risk the bumps in the roads to travel to a beautiful place.
That's so awesome. I love the way you said that. So how do you feel like about, sort of the culture shift to the use of so much software and so many machines in the landscape. Can you describe to me a little bit about sort of what happened there? Because obviously parents didn't have this when they were young. So they're looking at it like it's alien and wondering if their kids are learning anything, right? Because there's a lot of resistance there. And there's always resistance that, as far as we can see from a research perspective, in the wealthier areas. When you've got sort of a mixed bag, it's not as much, but it's always those parents who achieved in life, then they want the same, right? No difference for their own children. So talk to me about this culture shift and kind of what's happened.
Sure. I think it was, as far as the digital tools piece of it, that was the easy part for me, because I mentioned that we kind of embedded them into the fabric of what we just do every day. So that, to me, I really didn't take any arguments, any discussions, any intellectual discussions over, because we use them really well. And my board has been super supportive. My board's been so incredible throughout all this. But as far as the culture shifts that I think are going to come right now, they're the harder ones. They're the ones where my Zoom link isn't working. There's the culture shifts of, I don't want my child on a screen all day. And those are all discussions that really I can't win. So I try to, as a leader, always try to get to 10,000 feet. Always my goal. I can solve any problem, I can do any job, and I do. But if I do it consistently, then I'm not doing what I should do as the superintendent, which is to be the educational top leader. And I realized a long time ago that, listen, discussions over screen time in this age, they're unproductive. There's no other option. There really isn't. I mean, what are you going to do? Print packets for children? I mean, we have to figure out in this moment, unfortunately, what is the best in a situation that none of us would choose. And I've just tried to communicate that to my families. And they've been awesome and receptive. And, have we had concerns or complaints? Sure. And who's not? After yesterday, I had numerous parents that were, this didn't go well for my kid, and this needs to change. And, we regrouped as a team this morning before this call and had a 2-hour full admin meeting talking about things like, how do we talk to staff about, talking through a mask and not walking away 5 feet from the Chromebook, and ensuring that when kids walk in, right, when we're commingling, that they know there's a wipe for the desk. So we're having all these conversations now, but it comes back to, listen, there's not one athlete or professional in the world that has jumped in and was always at their top performance. You have to hone your craft. And this is, I liken it to, you're almost rebuilding education from the ground up after a nuclear war. You really are, because everything is different. Everything about how we're doing it is different about the delivery. And it just takes practice. And, one of my principals, Joanne Silma used the words patience and grace. And that's what we need to have in this moment. We all need to be patient, and we need to literally have grace. Yesterday, I walked and saw all my buildings, and I watched this little guy get off the bus, little first grader, and he was wearing his mask and carrying roses for his teacher. And it was phenomenal, because it really kind of, it gave you a tear in your eye to know that, listen, we got this, and we know it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to try to make it as, perfectly imperfect as we can.
I love that. I love the image. Thank you so much for that story.
You're welcome.
So we're at the half an hour mark. Dr. Hibbs, thank you so much. Feel free to stay on or, skate off as need be. It's been a delight meeting you. Thank you. We hope to see more of you. Yeah, and I hope the Learning Council gets to get back on the road and meet you in person.
That'd be fabulous. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
You got it. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Deployment, protection, service, end of life. Welcome to STAYMOBILE's best-in-class solutions for educational organizations of all sizes. In order to keep your students connected throughout the pandemic, your district is likely tasked with managing an entire fleet of laptops to support your one-to-one technology requirements. And while your district's technology needs might be growing, it's likely that your support staff is not. That means you're underprepared to get hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of devices from the boxes in which they shipped, configured, and into the hands of your students. That's where we come in. STAYMOBILE provides the services and solutions that remove or minimize almost every hurdle you'll face, and we do so in ways consistent with CDC guidelines in order to keep you, your team, and your students safe. We begin by looking at the entire device timeline, from purchase to deployment to usage to retirement, each and every step of the process. We then create a tailored solution set designed to alleviate every headache you might face along that continuum. First, we unpack your devices and dispose of the mountain of packaging refuse in green-friendly ways. We then boot up the device, install and configure the software to your specifications, and enroll it into your system. We then apply asset tags, install the high-quality protective case, and deliver it to your location fully charged and in slotted boxes. Next, we offer damage protection, extended OEM service, and a battery and power replacement program with STAYMOBILE Protect, our industry-leading protection and service program, available with and without a protective case. We also provide standalone service solutions that repair, refresh, or facilitate the OEM warranty of your devices. And here's where we get to show off our national service network. Depending upon your location, we can organize pickup and drop-off services or prepaid shipping to and from one of our growing number of STAYMOBILE technology centers. Finally, we can either establish a buyback program that turns your obsolete devices into cash, or we can recycle them for you. And all of these solutions can be configured to meet your specific needs. This approach allows you to effectively and efficiently outsource your device management needs to STAYMOBILE, empowering you to reach and exceed your technology goals in measurable, manageable ways. For more information, please contact your regional STAYMOBILE sales rep, Joe Estes, at joe.sales@staymobile.com, 800-913-6395. STAYMOBILE, your devices, our solutions.